The house was quiet, as it always was lately. The hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen felt louder than usual, and the ticking of the clock seemed to echo in the walls. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at nothing, her fingers lightly brushing the hem of her sweater. The room was dim, lit only by the warm glow of a bedside lamp. Outside the window, the wind nudged the branches, and leaves tapped softly against the glass. Her phone buzzed once, just a notification from a shopping app. No one called anymore. Her husband, once full of stories and warmth, now spoke only in functional sentences over rushed evening calls. Did the plumber come? Or don't forget the gas bill. The loneliness wasn't loud, but it was steady. It filled the spaces between her thoughts, seeped into her bones, and made the simplest moments feel heavy. She hadn't realized how much she'd grown used to being invisible. Meals were eaten in silence. Days blurred into one another. She wore the same robe more than she should have, not because she lacked clothes but because it didn't matter. No one noticed. She was just there, present but unseen. Then, a few weeks ago, her husband's son from his first marriage moved in. His lease had ended, and with job interviews coming up, he needed a place to stay. She didn't mind. He was polite, responsible, always greeted her kindly when he came through the door. But he kept to himself, just like everyone else. That night, the emptiness felt especially loud. She'd cooked for two but ate alone. Her stepson had texted that he was staying late at the library to prep for an interview. She wasn't expecting anyone. So when the doorknob gently rattled and a soft knock followed, she tensed. She didn't answer right away. "Yes," she finally called out. "It's me," he said. His voice was calm. I just wanted to check if you were okay." Beat passed. Her heart stuttered, not out of fear but something closer to surprise. She hadn't expected anyone to ask. Not tonight. Not ever. She stood and opened the door. There he was, in a hoodie and jeans, holding a cup of tea. "I made some. Thought you might want one." She managed a small smile. "Thank you." He handed her the cup, then paused. "Can I sit for a moment?" She nodded, stepping aside. He sat on the armchair near the window while she returned to her spot on the bed. For a while neither spoke. The silence wasn't awkward, it was oddly comforting. "I don't mean to pry," he said eventually. "You just seemed a little distant lately." She looked at him, eyes softening. "That's kind of you to notice." He nodded, offering a small smile. "Sometimes it helps to talk." She didn't speak just then. But in her chest, something long forgotten stirred, the feeling of being seen. She hadn't expected him to return the next evening, but he did. Same quiet knock, same gentle voice. This time she didn't hesitate. There was something comforting in his presence, like a pause in the middle of chaos. They didn't talk much at first. He asked about her day. She offered short answers, then found herself adding more. It was strange how easy it was to open up to someone who wasn't trying to fix her. Just listen. He never pried, never interrupted. When she spoke about the silence in the house, the way the air felt thick with everything unsaid, he nodded like he understood. When she mentioned how long it had been since anyone asked her how she felt, he didn't respond with pity, only sincerity. "That's not how it should be," he said quietly, and she believed him. It became their quiet routine. Tea in the evenings, light conversation that slowly deepened. He asked about her past, not out of curiosity but care. She told him about her childhood home, her college days, her dreams that quietly dimmed once life became more about responsibility than joy. He listened with his eyes, not just his ears. She noticed how he paid attention. When she mentioned her favorite jasmine tea, he bought a box the next day. When she said she hadn't painted in years, he encouraged her to try again, saying, "Even if it's just one stroke, it's something." No one had encouraged her like that in a long time, not since her husband stopped noticing the details of who she was. One evening, the power went out briefly, and they lit candles in the living room. In that soft light, her face relaxed, and she laughed more freely than she had in months. He told her stories from his college days, funny, awkward moments that made her forget the heaviness in her chest. His energy wasn't loud or invasive. It was calm, understanding, grounding. She found herself waiting for his knock each evening, listening for the familiar rhythm. Didn't feel wrong. It didn't feel strange. It felt like a piece of her life had gently shifted into place. There was no pretending, no roles to play. Around him, she wasn't someone's wife or someone's stepmother. She was just a woman, and he saw her as that. No more, no less. One night, after a particularly long conversation, she caught herself smiling in the mirror, not because of vanity but because she recognized herself again. Something had softened in her. Something had healed just a little. It wasn't about romance. It wasn't about age. It was about presence. Being noticed. Being heard. The connection wasn't something she planned, but it felt genuine. She didn't know what would come of it, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to find out. Their rhythm continued, quiet and natural, built on small moments that slowly layered trust. She started waking up with purpose again. Morning walks resumed. She began cooking meals with a bit more attention to flavor, even plating them with care. He always complimented her cooking, not in a way that felt rehearsed, but like he genuinely appreciated it. It reminded her of a version of herself she thought had faded long ago. He began leaving encouraging notes on the kitchen counter. "You're stronger than you think. Don't forget how much you matter." At first, she tucked them away shyly, unsure how to respond. But soon she started writing back, brief messages like "Thank you for seeing me" or "You bring light to this house." Their unspoken exchange became a quiet thread of warmth in a space that had long felt cold. There was no talk of the past that brought them under the same roof. No questioning of boundaries. Just a mutual understanding that something rare was happening between them. One day, while arranging books on the shelf, he found a painting tucked behind some old papers, one of her unfinished pieces. He brought it to her with care and said, "You should finish this. It still has something to say." It was a simple sentence, but it stayed with her for days. She started painting again. Just strokes at first, experimenting with color and motion. He would peek in and offer gentle encouragement. "That shade feels like peace," he once said, pointing to a soft blue she'd used. She hadn't realized how much she missed creating until she saw it through his eyes. She was becoming more alive, more aware, more herself. One evening after dinner, he shared something unexpected. How he used to feel like an outsider in every home he'd lived in. Always polite, always welcomed, but never truly belonging. She looked at him then, and for the first time, saw the reflection of her own loneliness in his eyes. It wasn't just her who'd been craving connection. He had too. They weren't healing alone, they were doing it together. Their bond deepened in the unspoken. A look across the room that lingered longer than usual. A shared smile that said more than words could. But they never crossed a line. There was a quiet respect that held everything steady. It wasn't about possession or passion. It was about presence, care, and the space they created for each other to simply be. She realized that love didn't always come with grand declarations or perfectly timed music. Sometimes it came softly, through late-night talks, quiet encouragement, and the feeling that you're finally home in someone's presence. For the first time in years she felt wanted, not for what she did but for who she was. And that kind of love, even if unspoken, was enough.